Okay, continuing with our videos for day 4. We're going to go ahead and code the hearts and the flowers. They're pretty short, so I think we can do 2 in one video with no trouble. So again, you should already be in the middle of coding. We're just going to add some more here. I've got NetBeans open already, and I'm going to go ahead and go over to my index.html. And because I'm going to do 2 this time, I'm going to actually do them both at the same time here. So I'm in the index. I'm going to add checkboxes for hearts and for flowers. So I'm going to copy this, come on down here, and paste it in twice. And I like to keep the space in there just so it's easy to read the code. Let me move this up a little bit. So I just copied the mandalas. I want to leave that one in, and here are the 2 copies. So this is going to be hearts, and this is going to be flowers, and then I have to change the name. And so the name of the input checkbox here should be hearts check, and then of course the name for the label should match that, hearts check. And then this one will be flower check. Let's see, I made them all singular, so let's change hearts to heart. So get rid of the S. So heart check, there we go. And then flower check, there we go. Okay, so I'm done with the index.html. Control S to save. Now I'm going to go in the script file. Again, I'll start at the top and put my symbolic constants in. Now these are going to be out of order because I want them to match my master. And so in a moment, I'm going to do the video for the faces, which is 13, 14, and 15, smiley, saddy, and angry. So the heart and the flower are 16 and 17. So let's leave some space here and do it like this. So var heart equal 16, and then var flower equals 17, okay? And the reason I'm doing that is because I've already got code done and there's some missing ones in here. So I'm going to give you the master and you'll have all that, but in case you wanted to build that yourself and you're following along with me, it'll work a little better if we keep those numbers the same in both copies. Okay, these are both pretty simple. Neither one of them has a separate function. So the code is entirely within the case select, the case break. So if we come down here after mandala, we're going to create a new case for heart. So case heart, and then we'll put the break in right away to close that. Oops, should be lowercase there, not a capital B. There we go. All right, and then again, I'll open that up because I'm going to put the code in there between. And let's see, let me find my notes. So here's the code for the heart. So we're going to go ahead and save and restore. Let's go ahead and cheat a little bit here and just copy the mandala code. So Control C. Come on down here, Control V, paste it in, and then I don't need this line width code, so we'll just go ahead and delete that. And that puts my G2 save there. So I am saving because I'm going to go ahead and translate when I draw the heart. And that's the next thing I'm going to do. We don't have a sides here, so we don't need this code. So let's go ahead and delete it. And this is going to be g2.translate. And then that's going to translate to X and Y. X and Y are developed earlier. We're in the draw function, and they're developed at the beginning of the draw function. And so one of the differences with some of these methods, or pardon, some of these figures, is they don't require a separate method to draw them. And so heart and flower are both like that. Okay, So we're going to randomly rotate the heart. I talked about this. So this is kind of hardwired in here, and later we should probably remove this and make it a global choice for the user, and then any of the figures that they draw would be rotated. But as I started to do the hearts, the flowers, and the faces, I kind of liked that they were rotated, and so I hard coded that in. But a better design would be to let the user decide if they wanted to do that again. So this is just going to randomly curve it essentially up to a complete revolution. So that'll just randomly rotate them. All right, so now we're going to move down to the bottom of the heart point. Again, I went through this code in the main video for today. So let's go to move to, whoops, there it is. So move to, and then if we move to 0 radius, because we've translated, that's basically going to move to x and then move to the right the distance radius. And oh, this is the heart. Is that right? Move to 0 radius. Oh, I'm sorry. Radius is down on the y-axis. So 0 on the x-axis. So it moves down. So this moves down to the point. Let's add a comment in here. Move down to lowest point. So we're going to start at the lowest point of the heart. Again, I went through this already. And then we're going to draw the first quadratic curve. Now this is kind of funky code here, so you'll have to watch carefully. So quadratic curve 2. So quadratic curve 2, whoops, I forgot the curve there. So quadratic curve 2. So we're going to start at 0, comma radius. That's the x and the y. And then we're going to have one control point, and then we're going to move to our destination point. So the first control point here is negative 1.25 times radius. And then the second control point is the same. So negative 1.25. I didn't speak very well there, actually. This is, what the hell? There, sorry about that. That's x. So negative 2 point times radius x, negative 2 point times radius y. And that's the first control point for the first quadratic curve. And then the destination point for that is the next two x and y values. So that's going to be radius and oh, I'm sorry, it's 0 radius. So I'm having a little trouble reading this where it ran off on the printer. I've got the printed code here next to me to make sure I don't make a mistake, which has to, make it difficult for you to code it in if I'm having trouble remembering this. So let's go over this. G2 quadratic curve 2, negative 125 times radius, that's the x, negative 125 times radius, that's the y, and then the destination point is from 0 radius to 0, negative 0.5 times radius. I'm glad I checked myself. So negative 0.5 times radius, okay? So it did make sense that it had the same endpoint as the start point, right? Okay, to save time, I'm going to copy this for the second one. Oops. Go to the end, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, And now very carefully we'll put in the values. So the difference is that this one is now positive, and that reflects the fact that they're symmetric to the y-axis. So this is a negative 1.25 radius, and this is a positive 12.5 radius for the x. The y should be the same, and indeed it is. And then the final point here should be the beginning point. So this is going to be 0 radius, like that. Okay. So again, start here at 0 radius, draw a quadratic curve using this point to this position, then draw another quadratic curve with a symmetric point to the start position. And then we go ahead and restore where we saved, and then we stroke, which actually renders this. Okay, let's go ahead and try our heart before we put the flower code in. It's not smart to put a bunch of code in without trying it. So we are going to go ahead and immediately finish the flower too, but we'll test it right now that I have enough to test. So I can test the heart now. So notice I have the hearts and flowers in, but flowers actually won't work now because although it's in the interface, I didn't add the code yet. So I'll try the hearts. I hit draw, and sure enough, I have an error. All right, let me real quickly check this and see if it's a stupid, simple error that I can follow. Otherwise, I will, oops, what's going on? Where's my developer toolbar? Developer toolbar. Oh, it's not showing it. All right, let me pause the video and figure out. Okay, so just going through the code, I had this working before and I simply didn't type it in correctly. So this G2 rotate math pi should be times 2 times math.random. So math pi times 2 is 1 complete revolution, and then the random will be 0 to just a little less than 1, which means it will rotate either nothing or up to a little bit less than a complete revolution. Okay, let's just go ahead and check our code. So we did the rotate, now we moved to 0 radius, we have that right. Then the quadratic curve to negative 1.25 times radius. And then that's followed by negative 25.25 times radius again. Then 0, negative 0.5 times radius, that's correct. And then we have a G2 quadratic curve to again, and that's going to be positive now, 125 times radius, negative 1.25 times radius, 0 and radius. That looks fine. Oh, I forgot to fill a stroke before the restore. So I didn't actually render this. Okay, here we go. That's the missing code. So G2.fill, that fills the heart, and then G2.stroke draws the outline. Okay, there we go. I'm pretty sure that was the problem. So let's try this baby again. Hit enter there, or run. Come on down. Again, we can't test the flowers yet. We don't have the code in, but we did add it already to the interface. What the hell? Let me close this and try it again. So hearts. All right, so I'll have to go back and look at all the code here. All right, well, I think I'll just leave this run. It's good for you to learn how we create mistakes. So let's go and look at our index first. So we have heart check, hearts, that's fine. Flower check, while I'm here, I'll check that. Let's go back up to the top here. I've got the heart and the flower in there as constants. And now let's see if we have the check code right. Oh, it looks like we forgot to put the heart code in. So let's see, swirl check, mandala check. Yep, sure enough. So basically what was happening is even though I was clicking the checkbox, I wasn't checking it to make sure to see if I got it there. And so it didn't get added. So let's go ahead and add this, control copy. You know, I think I did this once before on one of the videos too. So it's sort of funny. All this week we've been doing this coding, and it's really the same thing for each time, but I still managed to forget a step. Okay, so this is called heart check, and then if it works, it should add the hearts in here. And I'm tempted to go ahead and put the flower check in now too. Do you guys mind if I do that? Yeah, that'll work all right. So then all we have to do is add the flower code. So I'll put that in there. We'll go ahead and put flower check for the name of the checkbox. And instead of adding the heart, it should add the flower now. And then let me just make sure I've got both of those. Yep, okay, so control save. Should be good now. Let's try it one more time. Third time's the charm, as they say. Although I found in practice the fifth time is the charm, really. Oops. So what's going on? All right, looks like I have more of a problem here than I can fix. So I'm going to turn the video off for a second and see if I can solve it and come back and let you. So it looks like I have a typo, so I thought I'd just show you the debugger. So I hit the developer and toggle my tools. If I go to the console, here's an error message. Math.random is not a function. And that's probably because I have that misspelled, and it's telling me it's on line 234. So I'll go on back into NetBeans and go down to 234. And sure enough, that's right in our hard code. So the problem here is that I misspelled that. It should be lowercase. So math.random is correct. So I'll save that, and now it should actually work. So I'll launch it again, and hearts, and then we hit draw, and now we're getting our hearts. Okay. So I think it's probably good for you to see how we do the debugging, although obviously it was just a matter of me typing the code in correctly. But you might have the same problem typing the code in this week. That's one of the reasons I'm going to give you all of the code at the end of the week. If you're not used to doing this, it's real easy to make a mistake. Okay, let's go ahead and finish flowers. So I've already added flowers to the interface. I've already added the symbolic constant and the check here where I check to see if the user asked me to do flowers. And so now I'm going to add the flower code, and this is like the hard code. It's all going to be inlined here, so we're not going to have a flower function. So case flower, whoops, colon, and then break, semicolon, and then all the code for the flower goes in here. And you know what? I'm wrong. We do have a flower method, so we'll have to put that in. Oh well. Okay, so I've got the num sides here. Num sides equals math dot seal. Seal is like math dot floor. It goes down. Math dot seal is ceiling. It goes up. So math dot ceiling, that means what roll it up to the next highest integer. And this is math.random times 18. So math.random times 18, which is the number of sides. So basically math.random will be 0 to just less than 1. But if we take the ceiling of that, well, if it's 0, the ceiling will be 0. But if it's anything more than 0, it'll roll it up to 1. And then if it's just less than 18, it'll roll it up to 18. And then I've got a plus 6 in here too. So this is really the number of petals, not the number of sides. And then again, we want to save our graphics context, so G2 save. And then now we're going to call our flower function, which we'll have to write in a second. It's very similar to the others. We pass the context in, we pass the X and the Y center in, we pass the radius of the flower in, and finally the number of sides, which is actually the number of petals, so num sides. Okay. All right. Then after we call flower, we call the G2 fill, which is what I forgot to do in the last method, and the G2 dot stroke, and the fill fills in the color, and the stroke draws the outline. Okay. And then finally, we go ahead and restore the G2 context. And we do that because inside the function, I'm going to translate like you've been seeing. Okay, the function is going to go right here before the mandala. So that's going to be function flower, and then context, and then X, Y, radius, and then petals, which is the number of petals. And I'm passing that in as number of sides. Okay. Let's see, I've got this variable in here called numpetals. I think I was playing around with this. This isn't really necessary, but I'll leave it here so I don't change the code on the fly while I'm demoing it to you. So numpetals equals petals. That just copies petals into numpetals. And then, and that's not really necessary. So rotate angle. Var variable rotate angle equals 2 times math dot pi divided by num petals. I think what happened when I was developing this, I was having some issues and I thought it mattered if it was even or odd. And so I was playing around with the num petals. But once I got it to work, I realized it didn't matter. And I just left that in there. Let's see, where are we at here? I lost my place. Rotate angle. Okay, then we have the center radius. So this is going to be var center radius equals .25 times radius. You probably remember that from the video where I talked about the flower. So the central radius is 25% of the total radius that's passed in. And then here's our translation. So context dot translate x. Wow, I'm having trouble typing. XY. That means go ahead and set the center of the coordinate system and the center of the figure we're drawing, which just makes things easier. And then we're going to draw the center of the flower, so we use context.arc, and we go 0, 0, so that's the center. And then the center radius is the radius for the center. So this is the center circle of the flower. And then we're going to start it at 0 and then rotate it a full rotation, which is math.pi times 2. And again, it doesn't matter if it's counterclockwise or not, so we just say false to counterclockwise. But when you do a complete circle, it doesn't matter. Okay. I'm having some trouble with my keyboard here. It keeps locking up and it's not registering. Okay, let's see, page 3. Whoops. It looks like I'm missing a page of code here. So function flower. Oh, okay, that's right. It has a wrong name on it because I put these in the same file. All right, so before we do anything more, we want to go ahead and fill the center of our flower. So fill the center, and the fill color is generated in the draw method. And then we want to draw the outline of the center of the flower with stroke, and that color is also generated in the draw method. Now we're going to draw the petals, and so we have to calculate the 2 points that are on the edge of the central circle in the center. So that's going to be a var, and then this is going to be 0.1 y, and that's equal to 0. And then var 0.1 x, and that's going to be equal to the center radius. Again, I'm just taking advantage of the fact that I've translated the coordinate systems to the center here. So if I set the y at 0, the x is going to be on the radius. So that's going to be due east of the center point like I showed you in the video. Now we're going to get the coordinates for the second point. So that's going to be var p2x, and that's going to equal the center radius times, and then we're going to use our math cosine function, math dot cosine, cos, cos, and then in parentheses here we're going to have 0.5 times the rotate angle. So the idea here is that the this point, let's see, P2. Oh, you know what? I made a mistake. That should be rotate angle. I'm reading the code and I went to the wrong line. So in a second you're going to see that. Okay, so I got my P1 and my P1x and my P1y, my P2x. Now I need my P2y. So var P2y equals center radius times math.sine rotate angle. Okay, so those give me the first and the second point for the ends of the petal, and those are on the central disc in the center of the flower. And then I have to go ahead and get my control points. And I'm going to have 2 control points. So var, and then we'll call this one C1x, which is the x for the control point 1. And that's going to equal 1.25 times radius. As I mentioned when I went over this, I ended up making the petals a little bit longer than the declared radius, which is not really a great idea, because if the user is trying to do any kind of precision drawing with these methods, it basically would draw out of the declared area, so that's bad. But because we're using this for the greeting card app and that doesn't matter, I'll leave it like that for now. And later on, when I put all these methods into a library to reuse, I'll tune them up a little bit. So our second control point, x, C2x equals 1.25 times the radius, and this is the full radius. Oops, wait a minute, that's not right. Oh yeah, okay, times radius times math.cosine. Wow, I'm getting tired here. And then let's see, this is rotate angle. Okay, so rotate. All right, let me check that because I'm starting to have some trouble here. So C2x equals 1.25 times radius times math cosine of rotate angle. That's correct. And the next one's real similar, because I seem to be having trouble typing, I'll copy it and then just edit it. So this is going to be C2y, and then this part is the same. except that it's the sine instead of the cosine. All right, so far so good. And now we just have a for loop that goes ahead and rotates and draws each of the petals. So for var, and then p for petal, whoops. So p equals 0, while p is less than num petals. I wonder if that's right. Yeah, I guess it is. Let's look. Oh, yeah, up at the top there. Okay, so p is less than num petals, p plus plus, and then make a body there. And then the first one is that we're going to move to the first point. So context dot move to, and then P1X, P1Y. So P1X, P1Y. And then now we're going to have our Bezier curve. So context dot, and then Bezier curve 2. And then this is going to be the first control point. So that's C1X and then C1Y. And then the second control point is C2X and C2Y. So there's my two control points. And then the point that I'm drawing to is P2X and P2Y. So P2X, P2Y. Okay? Again, when we use the Bezier curve, it starts here. So I'm drawing from P1X, P1Y to P2X, P2Y. And then the two control points are going to shape that curve. And then basically the only thing I have left in the loop is to rotate. So context dot rotate. And then that's going to be the rotate angle, which we calculated. And of course, that's based on how many petals that I have, right? So rotate angle looks good. All right, let's hope that I got this one right. That's going to be kind of embarrassing if I have a problem again. All right, I think we got everything done. Let's test it and see. So now we select flowers and we hit done. And sure enough, it doesn't work. Real quickly, I'll go over here to see if I have a typo. That's the most likely context. That's clearly a typo in line 263. So we'll go back to NetBeans, 63 right there. So you can see I just spelled that wrong. All right, let's try her again. And since I already have Firefox open, I can pop back and just reload it to test the code. And I'm going to leave this open in case I still have an error. So make sure flowers is selected. And then hit draw, and we're good. So we did have a minor typo there, but we fixed it pretty easily. And now I can just get rid of this to see the whole thing. And since we're just about done, I want to play a little bit. Let's make this 400 to make bigger flowers. And then just jam on this a few times. Oh, and also I'll set the fade. That's kind of cool. I like the fade. So there we go. All right. So hearts and flowers. We've added stuff to our greeting card. It should be pretty good now and very functional. And the last thing I'm going to do today is the faces in the last video for today. So we'll be able to send happy smiley faces or sad faces or sort of grim, angry